My name is Caleb Vance. 3 days ago, I was dropped into another universe. Specifically, into a trashy B-list novel, reincarnated as the cliché playboy villain who's supposed to get crushed by the story's golden boy protagonist. In the original script, my character bio reads something like this. Arrogant, obnoxious, bullies men, harasses women, and uses his family's influence to cause trouble until he's unceremoniously killed off to make the hero look good. And right now, the plot has arrived at the chapter where I'm supposed to be forcing the female lead, Isabel Reed, into a marriage she doesn't want. According to the original story, I use my family's power to strong-arm the Reeds, demanding she marry me. At the engagement party, the protagonist makes his grand entrance, puts me in my place with a single punch, and walks away with the girl. The result? The engagement is off, and I end up dead in a convenient accident arranged by the hero. Are you kidding me? I'm in my early 20s, my family is loaded, and all I want to do is be a carefree trust fund kid. Forget forcing a marriage. I don't even want to touch Isabel Reed's hand. The protagonist can go screw himself. In the book, his entire life is a highlight reel of putting people down and collecting beautiful women like trading cards, and I'm just the opening act. But since I know the script, if I still willingly walk into his line of fire, I have to be a complete idiot, right? The Reed Estate's grand ballroom is packed. Isabel, dressed in a stunning white gown, sits on a couch at the front of the room, her expression as cold as ice. There's a clear look of disdain in her eyes, because in the original plot, she's already decided to publicly tear up our engagement contract the moment the protagonist appears. And me, I stroll into the hall. Everyone expects me to spout some villainous line like, "Isabel Reed, you're marrying me whether you like it or not." Instead, I give her a brief glance, pull a file from my jacket, and drop it on the coffee table. "Ms. Reed, this is the agreement to dissolve our engagement. Sign it." The entire room goes silent. Isabel freezes for a second, and then a man's voice rings out, crystal clear in her mind. Phew, almost forgot. This scene is the protagonist's big hero moment. If I actually push her, I'm guaranteed to get a concussion. Isabel, you're gorgeous, so you could be the protagonist's problem. At least then he won't think I'm in his way. Isabel's breathing hitches. She looks up at me, and for the first time, a flicker of curiosity appears in her eyes. You're sure you want to call it off? She asks, testing the waters. I've already got my whole game plan worked out in my head. Of course, I'm sure. I'm from another world. I know you and the protagonist are endgame. My playboy villain persona can't afford to mess with you two psychos. Isabel's heart skips a beat. She's never seen a man in this situation who wasn't threatening her, but was, instead, genuinely trying to get away from her. The guests are murmuring, completely baffled by this turn of events. Just then, the story's hero, Caden Shaw, finally makes his entrance. Caden is decked out in a sharp black suit, an arrogant confidence radiating from him as he walks with a rhythmic, intimidating stride. According to the script, he's supposed to stand in front of me and sneer, "Caleb, you think you're worthy of Isabel?" before kicking me across the room. However, when he walks in and sees me and Isabel with the dissolution agreement open on the table, he stops dead in his tracks. I don't even bother to look up. I just say to Isabel, "As soon as you sign, I'm leaving. I have a tea time this afternoon, so don't waste my time. Isn't a round of golf better than this? What's the point of pissing off the protagonist? Do I have a death wish?" Isabel's hand trembles slightly, and the corner of her mouth quirks up into a smile. This guy, she thinks, is actually kind of interesting. Standing off to the side, Caden's expression is already starting to sour. "Caleb, what's the meaning of this?" he asks coldly. I scoff internally. "What's the meaning? It means I'm getting the hell out of here before you get to have your big hero moment at my expense. You wanted to save the damsel in distress? Sorry, show's canceled." Under the table, Isabel's fingers clench into a fist. For the first time, she feels like there's much more to this playboy than meets the eye. I completely ignore Caden and start walking out with the unsigned agreement. The guests are dumbfounded. This wasn't in the script they'd imagined. As I reach the door, Isabel suddenly speaks up. "Caleb, wait." I stop, groaning in my head. Now what? Don't tell me she's having second thoughts. Please, God, no. I really don't want to marry you. A small smile plays on Isabel's lips. Since you want to end the engagement, let's handle this privately instead of making a scene. Of course, we should do it privately. A bigger scene just gives the protagonist a better stage. She lowers her eyes, hiding a flicker of amusement. Caden stands frozen in place, his face as black as thunder. He's just realized that his entire knight in shining armor performance has been completely torpedoed by me. That night, the news spread through the city's elite circles. Caleb Vance voluntarily broke off the engagement. Countless people laughed at me, calling me a coward, but I was celebrating. What I didn't expect, however, was that this was only the beginning. Every single face-slapping moment the protagonist had planned for me, I somehow managed to screw up. And even crazier, the reactions of the novel's heroines were starting to get weird. A couple of days after the Isabel incident, I had completely forgotten about it. After all, I had better things to do, like sunbathing on my yacht, playing some poker, and eating gourmet food. Now, this is the life. Whatever that protagonist business is, it needs to stay far away from me. But just then, I get a call from my father. Caleb, the Vance family's reputation is on the line. I want you at the Montgomery heiress's birthday party the day after tomorrow. Behave yourself. The Montgomery heiress. Claire Montgomery, the book's second female lead. On the surface, she's gentle and poised, but in reality, she's incredibly proud. In the original plot, I publicly humiliate her, the protagonist swoops in to save the day, and he captures her heart. I curse under my breath. Another scene for the protagonist? Seriously, get a rest, author. 2 days later, the Montgomery mansion is lit up like a beacon. I wander into the party wearing a casual blazer. Claire, in a pale blue gown, is surrounded by a circle of wealthy young men. According to the book, this is when I'm supposed to push my way through the crowd, accuse her of being a phony, and deliberately spill wine on her dress, causing a huge scene. But I'm not going to do that. I grab a glass of champagne, watch her from a distance, and sigh to myself. Damn, she's beautiful. Too bad, she's the protagonist girl. I'm not touching this. She's all his. Besides, spilling the wine is such a dumb move. The second I do it, Caden will beat the crap out of me. Only an idiot would do that. The wine glass in Claire's hand shakes slightly, and the tips of her ears turn red. She glances over, her eyes subtly landing on me. This man was completely different from the arrogant fool she'd heard about. Just then, a confident voice cuts through the crowd. Caden has arrived. He walks up to Claire, smiles, and hands her a gift, looking every bit the charming gentleman. But right as he's about to pull her aside for a private word, a server carrying a large cake trips and stumbles, sending the cake flying directly toward Claire's dress. In the original plot, this is Caden's cue for a heroic, slow-motion dive to save her. But my mind races with a different thought. Whoa, that dress must be expensive, right? Definitely custom-made. It would be a damn shame to get it dirty. On sheer impulse, I lunge forward. I catch the cake platter with one hand and steady Claire's shoulder with the other. The cake is saved. The dress is spotless. The entire party is silent. Caden's hand is still outstretched in midair. His hero moment, stolen by me again. Claire stares at me, stunned, as my inner voice echoes in her head. That was close. If that was my girlfriend's dress, I'd be pissed if it got stained. Her heart flutters. Thank you, she says softly. I wave it off. No problem. Happy to help. Gotta get out of here. Don't want to be on the protagonist's radar for too long. Claire's eyes narrow slightly. She senses it clearly. I was deliberately trying to avoid her. For some reason, that feeling left her feeling a little frustrated. That night, the protagonist never found another opportunity to shine, while Claire's gaze kept drifting back to me. A few days later, a friend dragged me to a high-end, members-only club. There, I saw the book's third female lead, Blair Thorne. She was the darling of the Thorne Empire, a new powerhouse in the business world. With a fiery personality, she had a special hatred for spoiled rich kids. The original plot had me hitting on her at the club, getting a slap across the face for my troubles, and then having the protagonist step in to clean up the mess. But at that moment, all I wanted was to drink my whiskey in peace. I didn't even want to look in her direction. Can't mess with her. Staying away from the main female characters is the only way to survive. But of course, a drunk idiot starts stumbling toward Blair's table, reaching out to sling an arm around her shoulder. My stomach drops. Dude, Do you have a death wish? A woman like Blair Thorne has her family and the protagonist backing her up. You touch her, and you'll be on the national news. I instinctively stand up, grab the guy, and pull him back. Buddy, sober up. Don't throw your life away. The guy curses and tries to shove me, but his feet slip and he face plants on the floor. Blair raises an eyebrow as my voice of reason rings in her ears. Don't thank me. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was just afraid you'd get yourself killed. She smirks. For the first time, she found this playboy genuinely amusing. Not far away, Caden Shaw witnessed the whole thing. He was starting to notice a pattern. Wherever he was supposed to have a big moment, I was always there to accidentally intercept it. Even more troubling, the way these three women were looking at me was becoming very, very different. Caden Shaw's expression grew darker by the day. In the book, this guy was the complete package: strength, intelligence, and a powerful background. Everyone was supposed to look up to him, especially the heroines, who were all destined to fall for him. But now, every time he was supposed to take the stage, I'd somehow cut him off. It's not personal, Mr. Protagonist. It's just that your plot is so cliché. I'm just trying to live a quiet life, but I keep getting dragged into your scenes. Of course, he couldn't hear that, but the heroines heard it loud and clear. That day, my father summoned me to a charity auction. Caleb, you're bidding on a piece of jewelry for the family. And while you're there, network with the Lowells. The Lowells. A name immediately popped into my head. Serafina Lowell, the fourth female lead. On the surface, she was an ice queen, but deep down, she was full of passion. In the original story, I was supposed to humiliate her in public, only for the protagonist to step in, defend her honor, and win her affection. The thought almost made me roll my eyes. Another scene for the protagonist. Author, can you please get some new material? The auction hall was dazzling. Serafina, in a black evening gown, sat in the front row, radiating an aura of pure ice. The auctioneer presented the next item, a priceless emerald necklace. In the original script, I, in a fit of showing off, was supposed to drive the price up to an insane amount, forcing Serafina to endure the public humiliation of me gifting it to her. I took a sip of my drink and decided to play dead, keeping my bidding paddle down. What's the point of buying this, so it can collect dust in a safe? Just then, a voice from the back called out, $10 million. Caden, in the book, that $10 million bid was how he saved Serafina and earned her gratitude. I was perfectly happy to let him have his moment, but then some rich idiot in the front row suddenly raised the bid. $11 million. I frowned. What was wrong with this guy? I remembered him from the book, a total side character who gets financially ruined by the Lowell family for running his mouth. I muttered to myself, you could try to steal the protagonist's thunder, but don't overdo it. You'll get yourself killed. So, I lazily raised my paddle. $12 million. The room went quiet. The rich idiot didn't dare bid again, and Caden clearly hadn't expected me to jump in. But to Serafina, my bid was accompanied by that inner voice. There, that should take some of the shine off the protagonist's big moment. Now, maybe I can have some peace and quiet. For the first time, Serafina's gaze softened. The heroine's strange new behavior. After the charity auction, I noticed something weird. No matter where I went, I'd run into one of them. Isabel would occasionally call to ask me for coffee. Claire would strike up a conversation with me at business events. Blair even started sending me flirty texts like, "You free today?" And Serafina, she would just quietly appear near me, like a cat. What is going on? The plot has gone completely off the rails. Even weirder, every time I complained about the protagonist or the plot in my head, their reactions were bizarre. Isabel would have to stifle a laugh. Claire would get a thoughtful look. Blair would raise an eyebrow at me. And Serafina would even let a tiny smile grace her lips. I was getting a little creeped out, but I still hadn't figured out that they could hear my thoughts. Finally, Caden confronted me directly. Caleb, are you intentionally trying to get in my way? I blinked, then spread my hand with a grin. You're overthinking it. I'm just a playboy. I don't have the energy to mess with you. Why would I fight you? It's not like I have a harem-collecting fetish. Standing a few feet away, Isabel nearly burst out laughing. Caden's face darkened, probably thinking I was playing dumb. So he set a trap. At a corporate gala, he arranged for someone to frame me for harassing the daughter of a major political figure, hoping to ruin my reputation in public. That night, the woman Caden had hired, dressed in a red dress, sashayed over to me and cooed, "Mr. Vance, didn't you say you were going to buy me a drink earlier?" I was completely baffled. "Who are you? I've been over here eating salmon canapes this whole time." Before she could say another word, I beat her to it, handing my champagne flute to Blair, who was standing nearby. "Blair, want this? Salmon and champagne is a killer combo." Blair smirked. "Sure." The entire room's attention shifted to me and Blair. The woman in the red dress was completely ignored. And just like that, Caden's meticulous plan fizzled out. "I really didn't mean to screw you over, Mr. Protagonist. But you're the one who tried to play dirty, and it completely backfired." Sitting at another table, Claire pursed her lips, a sly, cat-like smile on her face. After the gala, it was like someone turned up the volume on the city's gossip mill. Every little thing was amplified into a scandal. The next morning, a nasty hashtag was trending on Twitter. Hashtag Vance Air misusing charity funds. The accompanying photo was a side profile of me raising my bidding paddle at the auction. I raise a paddle, and suddenly I'm embezzling. This author really loves a good frame-up. I close my phone, deciding to just ignore it. The first rule of being a rich kid: if you can lie down, don't sit. If you can sit, don't stand. If you can swipe a card, don't open your mouth. That afternoon, I got a message from Claire, polite to a fault. "Caleb, I'm in the conference room at Montgomery PR, 8 o'clock tonight. I'd like to get your input on something." My immediate instinct was to refuse. No. Stay away from me. You and the protagonist are a thing. If I get too close, the author will kill me off. But I was there before 8. Not because I was a coward, but because my mother had sent me 5 consecutive voice memos consisting of a single word: go. In the Montgomery PR conference room, a screen displayed a network map of how the Twitter hashtag had spread, a dense web of arrows. Claire was leaning over a file, the light carving a clean line across her profile. "I watched the original video," she began. "You didn't do anything suspicious, and the platform has no evidence of misuse. We need a third-party audit and the original fund transfer records." A third-party audit? In the book, the protagonist handles this for the heroine as one of his big moments. "Are you trying to throw me on the fire now?" "No thanks. I just want to go home and order some sliders." Claire's fingers paused. She looked up at me, her tone softening slightly. "I'll handle the audit and forensics. You, stay out of the public eye." I was stunned. Is this woman really going to run around doing damage control for me? Did she break up with the protagonist? Claire cleared her throat, as if to dispel something awkward in the air, and turned to her team. "Proceed with the plan as I outlined. Let the hashtag die down for now." I started backing away, planning my escape. The moment the elevator doors opened, Isabel was standing inside, her gaze cool. "You're with me," she said. "Her too? Look, you don't need to get involved either, Ms. Reed. You're basically the epicenter of every plot storm." She tossed me a key fob. "Drive." I was forced into the driver's seat of her car, my mind reeling. What kind of plot twist is this? Am I being rescued by a squad of heroines? This has to be a joke. We drove into the underground garage of the Reed Corporation. She led me straight to a records room. "Last night, you said that woman in the red dress was bait." I froze. When did I say that? I just thought it last night. "How did you—" Isabel was flipping through a file, pretending not to notice. "Tonight at 10, a second wave of slander is going to hit. They'll release a fabricated screenshot of a charity fund ledger. It's a clumsy fake. We can debunk it by pulling the original transaction logs from our system." 10 o'clock? Right, in the book it was 10 on the dot. Jesus, these people don't even change the time. She pointed at a monitor. "I need your authorization to grant access to the old system that links Vance Industries to the charity's account." I immediately waved my hands. "I have no idea how to do that. The only thing I know how to do is hand my credit card to the accountant." "Fine," she said after a beat. "Then I'll request access myself." Watching her walk away, I suddenly felt uneasy. "Why are you all helping me? I'm not worth it, guys. Seriously." She spun around, her eyes flashing for an instant before turning cold again. "Go home, and don't do anything stupid." I thought I was free to go hug a pillow, but the moment I hit my couch, Blair Thorne called. "Come down. I'm outside your building. Did you guys create a group chat called Operation Babysit the Playboy?" The elevator doors opened, and I saw her leaning against her car, wearing a sharp blazer. "Get in." She glanced at me and started the engine. Where are we going? Pier 7 warehouse. Someone's moving a batch of off-the-books equipment tonight to use as evidence. Pier 7. The scapegoat warehouse from the book? Isn't this where Caden is supposed to stage a righteous bust and pin it all on me? A chill went down my spine. Blair, let's not go. It's cold out. Buckle up, she said, hitting the gas. The air at the port was damp and salty. In the distance, Pier 7 was dimly lit. A few vans were parked by the entrance, and men in baseball caps were loading boxes. This whole setup screams bad news. Blair whispered. My people are on the perimeter. Don't get out of the car. You got it. Can't just take a nap in here. Just as she was about to open her door, a bright headlight beam swept across us, and an SUV cut us off. The door opened, and Caden stepped out, impeccably dressed, a look of mild surprise on his face. What are you two doing here? I immediately pulled the brim of my hat down. I'm not here. I'm a figment of your imagination. Blair smirked, her smile icy. You're men. I received an anonymous tip that someone was moving evidence tonight. I came to check it out, Caden said, playing the part of the noble hero. Anonymous? Did you call yourself from a burner phone? I tried to shrink even lower in my seat, but there were two soft taps on the window. I jumped, turning to see Serafina Lowell standing in the shadows. She pointed up at a security camera, then to a pedestrian bridge in the distance. She clearly mouthed two words, 10 minutes. 10 minutes until what? The cops? A live stream. She discreetly attached something to the inside of our car door, a thin magnetic card with a QR code. Blair glanced at it, and a corner of her mouth lifted. Interesting. The tension in the air snapped taut. Caden's men started taking photos and videos of the boxes, loudly narrating about misused funds and laundered equipment. Wait a second, those boxes, they wouldn't happen to be filled with. A detail from a novel flashed in my mind. The boxes actually contained old motherboards from a third-party supplier, with serial numbers that had been decommissioned 2 years ago. They had nothing to do with the charity funds, but a quick photo op was all they needed to stir up trouble. What a garbage script. A picture is all it takes to be evidence now. Gritting my teeth, I whispered, Blair, can you stall them from opening the boxes? Blair shot me a sideways glance, as if she were decoding a secret message, then pulled out her phone and made a call. Now, from the distance, several sets of headlights flashed on simultaneously, bathing the warehouse in light. A few men in official jackets holding badges rushed in. Department of Commerce, routine inspection. Open the boxes. The scene erupted into chaos. Caden's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly, but he remained the perfect gentleman. Of course, we'll cooperate. The first box was pried open. Inside were neat stacks of old motherboards, all marked with disposal tags. The lead investigator said, deadpan, this is electronic waste. Who reported this as misappropriated equipment? Caden's smile didn't waver. An anonymous tip. Perhaps it was a prank. The second box, the third, all filled with junk. The investigators took a few notes and signaled their team to pack up. Caden's eyes swept past our car, catching a glimpse of Serafina's shadow, and his expression hardened. He turned to leave, but suddenly, the port's PA system crackled to life, broadcasting a crystal-clear audio recording. A man's low voice said, At 10, move the old board from Pier 7. When the media gets there, open the boxes and start filming. I've already got the headline, Vance Charity Funds Unaccounted For, Warehouse Full of Suspicious Equipment. Easy money, and we get to ruin a reputation. The voice belonged to one of the men who had been taking photos. Holy crap, is this a reverse sting operation? Serafina glanced in my direction, then turned away without expression. The magnetic card she'd stuck to the car was obviously the switch for a listening device. The smile on Caden's face finally shattered. He stared daggers at the man. Who told you to say that? The man's eyes widened in terror. He turned to run, but was tackled by the investigators. In the confusion, Caden pulled his hat down, plastering the smile back on his face. A misunderstanding, he said, before leading his people away. The car was silent for a few seconds. What just happened? How do we go from a frame-up to a counter-ambush? Who's directing this movie? Blair flicked my forehead. Stop thinking so hard. Let's go home. I didn't say anything out loud. How did you know I was? Never mind. The next morning, The second wave of slander hit the internet at 10 o'clock sharp, just as predicted. But before it could gain any traction, it was completely buried by the story of the Pier 7 audio evidence. The anonymous account was traced to a shell PR firm, and while the person behind it was well hidden, the trail wasn't completely cold. In the afternoon, Isabel sent me a text. Fund transfers pulled. The Vance accounts are clean. Sending out a cease and desist letter shortly. I stood by my floor-to-ceiling window, feeling a strange mix of emotions. I haven't done a single thing. Why are you all covering for me? The sunlight hit the glass, scattering like fine gold dust. I figured the storm was over for now and booked a flight to a private island to lay low for a few days. I was literally at the gate when my father called. Get back here. Now. My knees went weak. Dad, someone's trying to stage a coup at the company. I'm waiting for you in the boardroom. Caden, are you that bored? You're coming after my family's business now. I canceled my flight and headed back to the Vance Industries Tower. When the elevator opened, the boardroom was a zoo. A row of news cameras, a handful of so-called shareholder representatives banging on the table, shouting about ousting the Playboy heir. Is this a live-streamed intervention? I found a seat in the corner, planning to continue my strategy of playing dead. The lawyer leading the meeting cleared his throat. Given the recent media attention, we are calling an emergency shareholder meeting. The doors suddenly swung open and two people walked in side by side, Claire and Serafina. Sorry we're late, Claire said, placing a stack of documents on the table. Her eyes scanned the room. Several of our most important clients do not agree with a change in management before these allegations are fully cleared. Serafina just stood beside her, nodding quietly. She handed a USB drive to the lawyer. The original audio from the Pier 7 inspection and newly obtained call logs are on here. The identities of everyone involved are quite clear. Wait, tonight? What did you get more evidence? Why don't I know anything? Furthermore, Claire continued, her voice calm and measured, we've also compiled a record of the social media bot farm that was hired. The projector screen lit up, displaying the user interface of a content farm, complete with talking points, templates, and payment receipts. The most damning part was the client account, Starlight Media. The room fell silent, then erupted in murmurs. Someone whispered, Starlight. Isn't that Caden Shaw's new media venture? Tisk. The protagonist cover is blown. Please continue, my dad said, taking a sip of tea, looking preternaturally calm. The tide had completely turned. The shareholder reps deflated like puncture balloons. The lawyer coughed, preparing to announce the outcome, but the boardroom doors opened one more time. Caden was here. He wore a gray overcoat, his expression confident as his eyes swept the room, finally landing on me. Caleb, I'm impressed. I held up my hands. Don't praise me. I didn't do anything. I seriously did nothing, except try to skip town and go to an island. He glanced at the screen. A few spliced audio clips. You think that's enough to convict me? We brought the original files. Serafina's voice was cool and sharp. Then I'll see you in court, Caden said, turning to leave. He paused at the door and looked back. Tonight is the grand opening of Blackwood Vineyard. You should all come. My heart sank. Blackwood Vineyard. That's the stage for his grand finale. In the book, that's where he publicly exposes me, destroys my family, and gets the girl. The whole trifecta. I subconsciously pulled out my phone and texted my travel agent. Changed the flight to tomorrow. Just one more day. I just have to survive one more day. Night fell, and Blackwood Vineyard was ablaze with lights. I stood in a corner, nursing a glass of Sprite, trying my best to look like a piece of furniture. Caden circulated, a wine glass in hand, chatting with every table, his smile flawless. At 10:01 p.m., the stage lights dimmed and then flared back on. A video appeared on the massive screen behind the stage. It was my face, or rather, a face that was 80% mine. In the video, this me was accepting cash, signing documents, and saying, use the charity funds for whatever. A deep fake. Such an old trick. All eyes in the room turned to me like a tidal wave. My first instinct was to run, but a hand clamped down on my shoulder. I turned to see Isabel. Stay put, she said in a low voice. Don't move. All right, gotta listen to the wife. Wait, she's not my... Whatever. The next second, the video on the screen flickered and froze. A line of red text appeared. Forgery detected. A man who looked like a tech analyst hurried onto the stage, plugged in a laptop, and started scrubbing through the timeline. "This is a new algorithm we just finished tonight," he said, his voice steady. "This video's facial markers have been altered at least 3 times. Even the lighting is inconsistent." A murmur went through the crowd. Caden's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but remained in place. "A technical disagreement, perhaps. It doesn't change the facts. We're not done." A second video feed appeared, showing an internal group chat from Starlight Media. The messages were explicit. "Deploy at 10 p.m. tonight. Use these talking points to drive the narrative." Caden's knuckles whitened, but he remained composed. "I'm being framed as well." Claire offered a polite smile. "Then we should investigate." She closed her laptop. "But until that investigation is complete, please stop your accusations against Mr. Vance." "Nice." I was about to take a subtle step backward when a commotion erupted at the entrance. A security guard stumbled onto the stage, shouting, "Fire! There's a fire in the wine cellar." The room descended into chaos. Caden's eyes narrowed. He quickly took the microphone. "Everyone, please remain calm. Evacuate in an orderly fashion." Here we go again. The hero who saves everyone from the fire, and in the process, accidentally pushes me into the flames. That's exactly how you played it in the book. I instinctively headed for an exit, but I slipped on the polished floor and almost went down with the stampede. A hand grabbed my wrist. Serafina was suddenly beside me. She shoved a damp cloth into my hand and pointed toward a service exit. "It's like you've already seen the answer key." I covered my mouth and headed down the service stairs. A draft blew in, smelling of smoke and alcohol. As I was about to enter the corridor, 2 figures lunged at me from the shadows. Holy crap, a real-life ambush. I flinched back, but someone behind me kicked one of the men in the knee and then executed a perfect shoulder throw, slamming him against the wall with a loud thud. Blair Thorne shook out her wrist. "I told you to run, but you wouldn't listen. If I'd run, you wouldn't have been able to hit him." She shot me a glare. "Get in the car." "What about the fire?" "Fake. Smoke bombs," she said, dragging me outside. "The real show is out here." On the mountain road outside the winery, the wind howled through the pines. Several black sedans were parked in the darkness, their doors open like hungry mouths. Caden stood in front of them, his hands behind his back, a gentle smile on his face. "Mr. Vance, let's have a chat." "I don't want to chat. I want to go home and eat sliders. With extra seasoning." He gestured with his hand. A man behind him opened a briefcase filled with stacks of documents and photos. "This is the evidence against you," Caden said calmly. "You can sign this confession, or you cannot sign it. But only if you sign will you be going home tonight." I glanced at the papers and resisted the urge to roll my eyes. The classics: confess to financial crimes, resign from my position, and disappear forever. Sign that and I'm screwed. I was about to say no thanks when the screech of tires echoed down the road. A silver sports car drifted to a stop, and Isabel jumped out before it had even fully parked, positioning herself in front of me. "Caleb isn't signing anything." Caden raised an eyebrow. "And who do you represent?" "Myself," she said, her voice even, "and the Reed family." "I thought you would choose me," Caden laughed, but the sound was cold and hard. "I never choose a person," Isabel replied. "I choose what's right." His gaze shifted back to me. "Mr. Vance, your thoughts?" I shrugged. "I don't really have any. I just want to go home and eat some sliders." His smile deepened. "Then you can die." He gave a slight nod, and 2 of his men stepped forward. "Police!" A row of red and blue lights flashed at the end of the road. With a squeal of brakes, several officers got out and ran toward us. We received a report of illegal detainment and forced contract signing. For the first time, Caden's expression changed. "Who was the reporting party?" A young man in a baseball cap timidly raised his hand. "Me. I was just passing by, and I saw them surrounding this gentleman." Passing by, the only thing that passes by on this mountain road is a squirrel. The police began collecting evidence. A forensics technician with the team lifted a false bottom in the briefcase and pulled out a small black box. A live audio recording device. "It's been active this whole time. Who planted it?" "We'll check for prints," the technician said, pulling on a pair of gloves. Caden closed his eyes for a moment, as if he was finally realizing that someone had been one step ahead of him the entire time. He suddenly chuckled, a cold, sharp sound. Quite a performance. Let's go, the lead officer ordered. The wind whistled through the pines. The scene felt like it had been paused. A bizarre feeling washed over me. From start to finish, all I had done was provide sarcastic inner commentary and serve as a background character. Yet I had been pushed into the eye of the storm every single time. What did I even do? I seriously just wanted to eat some sliders. Someone draped a jacket over my shoulders and gave them a gentle squeeze. Let's go home. It was Serafina. How? How did you all know what he was going to do next? She looked at me, a faint, knowing smile in her eyes. The aftermath was swift. Starlight Media's books were audited, revealing a money laundering trail linked to several online troll farms. The testimony from the anonymous tipster at Pier 7 was submitted as evidence. The fake fire alarm and illegal detainment at the winery were all caught on camera. When Caden was taken in for questioning, he was still terrifyingly calm. I watched him through the glass partition. He watched me back. He looked like he had finally accepted something, and the corner of his mouth twitched into a smirk. Caleb, you're actually pretty smart. I shook my head sincerely. No, I'm really not. The only smart thing I did was know that I shouldn't be the hero. He said nothing, turned, and walked away. In the days after the storm passed, I tried to get back to my normal rich kid routine, sleeping in, browsing car dealerships, and researching new slider joints. But every day, I would coincidentally run into one of them. In the morning, Isabel would be in my building's elevator, holding a legal document. Sign this. I'm starting to think you have cameras in my apartment. At lunch, Claire will be sitting across from me, showing me a new ad campaign. Just smile. If I smile, I'll end up as the new face of this brand, won't I? In the afternoon, while test driving a new car, Blair would change the route to the Lakeside Highway. You take your foot off the gas. I'll drive. When a beautiful woman drives, I close my eyes. And at night, I come home to find Serafina waiting downstairs, holding a warm bag of sliders. The kind with the works. I'm officially terrified of my own thoughts now. Eventually, Caden's case went to trial. The media swarmed the courthouse, but I only watched from a distance, never going inside. The protagonist's story is over. Time for the side characters to exit stage left. I'm not the hero, so I won't steal the spotlight. Someone handed me a bottle of water. Let's go when you're ready, Isabel said, standing beside me. Yeah, and stop watching this stuff from now on, Blair added, her hands shoved in her coat pockets. Okay, if you're that desperate for entertainment, Claire said, accidentally handing me a soda, you can watch the ad I made for you. I don't want to be in an ad. Serafina whispered, then you won't be. We stood there in a line on the steps, the sound of a gavel echoing faintly in the wind. Is it over? No one answered. Only our four shadows, stretching out and merging on the ground. That night, I walked home alone, the streetlights retreating behind me one by one. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry. It was followed by a period, no signature. I stared at it for a few seconds and didn't reply. You don't owe me anything, and I don't owe you anything. Let's all just step out of the script. I was alone in the elevator. I looked at my reflection in the mirrored wall and had to laugh. I never wanted to be the hero, but the plot wouldn't let me be anything else. The elevator chimed, and the doors slid open. The light in the hallway was warm. Four familiar faces were leaning against my apartment door, as if they had all been waiting for a long time. You're back. I nodded and pulled out my keys. All right, fine. I'm done running. The door opened. The lights came on. I tossed my jacket on a hook and turned around to find all four of them just watching me. What? I asked, suddenly nervous. Nothing, Isabel said, looking away. If you start complaining in your head again. Blair began, her eyes narrowing. We'll put you in a real ad this time. Claire finished with a smile. Serafina added softly. The sliders are getting cold. I paused for a second, then smiled too. Okay, you win. I had no idea what they were smiling about, and they clearly had no intention of explaining. There were only the shadows, falling together under the warm light, like a quietly rewritten script that had finally, peacefully, been closed.